Mailboxes were huge back then. There were heavy green vaults that stood like Roman mile markers at corners on the neighbourhood bus routes and were rarely, if ever, moved. I was barely tall enough to reach the mail drop slot, much less big enough to turn the bastard over and into the path of a bus. It was clearly impossible that I could have committed this crime without help, and that was what they wanted. Names and addresses, along with a total confession. They already knew I was guilty, they said, because other culprits had squealed on me. My parents hung their heads, and I saw my mother weeping. I had done it, of course. And I had done it with plenty of help. It was carefully plotted and planned, a deliberate ambush that we set up and executed with the fiendish skill that smart 9-year-old boys are capable of when they have too much time on their hands and a lust for revenge on a rude and stupid bus driver who got a kick out of closing his doors and pulling away just as we staggered to the top of the hill and begged him to let us climb on. He was new on the job, probably a brain-damaged substitute, filling in for our regular driver who was friendly and kind and always willing to wait a few seconds for children rushing to school. Every kid in the neighbourhood agreed this new swine of a driver was a sadist who deserved to be punished, and the Hawks AC were the ones to do it. We saw it more as a duty than a prank. It was a brazen insult to the honour of the whole neighbourhood. We would need ropes and pulleys and certainly no witnesses to do the job properly. We had to tilt the iron monster so far over it was perfectly balanced to fall instantly just as the fool zoomed the bus... We had to tilt the iron monster so far over it was perfectly balanced to fall instantly, just as the fool zoomed into the bus stop at his usual arrogant speed. All that kept the box more or less upright was my grip on a long, invisible string we had carefully stretched all the way from the corner and across about 50 feet of grass lawn to where we crouched out of sight in some bushes. The rig worked perfectly. The bastard was right on schedule and going too fast to stop when he saw the thing falling in front of him. The collision made a horrible noise, like a bomb going off or a freight train exploding in Germany. That is how I remember it, at least. It was the worst noise I'd ever heard. People ran screaming out of their houses like chickens going crazy with fear. They howled at one another as the driver stumbled out of his bus and collapsed in a heap on the grass. The bus was empty of passengers, as usual at the far end of that line. The man was not injured, but he went into a foaming rage when he spotted us fleeing down the hill and into a nearby alley. He knew in a flash who had done it, and so did most of the neighbours. "Why deny it, Hunter?" said one of the FBI agents. "You know exactly what happened up there on that corner on Saturday. Your buddies already confessed, son. They squealed on you. We know you did it, so don't lie to us now and make things worse for yourself. A nice kid like you shouldn't have to go to federal prison." He smiled again and winked at my father, who responded with a snarl, "Tell the truth, damn it! Don't lie to these men! They have witnesses!" The FBI agents nodded grimly at each other and moved as if to take me into custody. It was a magic moment in my life. A defining instant for me or any other 9-year-old boy growing up in the 1940s after World War II, and I clearly recall thinking, well, this is it. These are G-men. Whack! Like a flash of nearby lightning that lights up the sky for 3 or 4 terrifying split seconds before you hear the thunder, a matter of zeptoseconds in real time, but when you're a 9-year-old boy with two full-grown FBI agents about to seize you and clap you in federal prison, a few quiet zeptoseconds can seem like the rest of your life, and that's how it felt to me that day. In grim retrospect, I was right. They had me, dead to rights. I was guilty. Why deny it? Confess now, throw myself on their mercy, or... what? What if I didn't confess? That was the question. I was a curious boy, so I decided, as it were, to roll the dice, and to ask them a question. "Who?" I said. "What witnesses?" It was not a hell of a lot to ask under those circumstances, and I really did want to know who among my best friends and blood brothers in the dreaded Hawks AC had cracked under pressure and betrayed me to these thugs, these pompous brutes and toadies with badges and plastic cards in their wallets that said they worked for J. Edgar Hoover, and that they had the right, and even the duty, to put me in jail because they'd heard a rumour in the neighbourhood some of my boys had gone belly up and rolled on me. What? No, impossible. Or not likely, anyway. Hell, nobody squealed on the Hawks AC. Not on its president, anyway. Not on me. So I asked again. Witnesses? What witnesses? And that was all it took, I recall. We observed a moment of silence. As my old friend Edward Bennett Williams would say, nobody spoke, especially not me. And when my father broke the eerie silence, there was doubt in his voice. "I think my son has a point, officer. Just exactly who have you talked to?" I was about to ask myself. "Not Duke," I shouted. "He went to Lexington with his father, and not Ching, and not Jay." "Shut up," said my father. "Be quiet and let me handle this, you fool." And that's what happened, folks. We never saw those FBI agents again. Never. And I learned a powerful lesson. Never believe the first thing an FBI agent tells you about anything, especially not if he seems to believe you are guilty of a crime. Maybe he has no evidence, maybe he's bluffing, maybe you are innocent. Maybe. The law can be hazy on these things, but it is definitely worth a roll. In any case, nobody was arrested for the alleged incident. The FBI agents went away, the US mailbox was put back up on its heavy iron legs, and we never saw that drunken swine of a substitute bus driver again. Would you do it again? That story has no moral, at least not for smart people, but it taught me many useful things that shaped my life in many fateful ways. One of them was knowing the difference between morality and wisdom. Morality is temporary, wisdom is permanent. Ho ho! Take that one to bed with you tonight. In the case of the fallen mailbox, for instance, I learned that the FBI was not unbeatable, and that is a very important lesson to learn at the age of 9 in America. Without it, I would be an entirely different man today, a product of an utterly different environment. I would not be talking to you this way, sitting alone at this goddamn typewriter at 4:23 AM, with an empty drink beside me and an unlit cigarette in my mouth and a naked woman singing Poor John Bess on TV across the room. On one wall I see an 8-foot, 2-handled logging saw with 200 big teeth and Confessions of the Best Piece of Ass in the World scrawled in gold letters across the long rusty saw blade. At one end of it hangs a petrified elk's leg and a finely painted wooden bird from Russia that allegedly signifies peace, happiness and prosperity for all those who walk under it. That strange-looking bird has hung there for 15 extremely active years, no doubt for sentimental reasons, and this is the first time I've thought about adding up the score. Has this graven image from ancient Russian folk art been a good influence on my life? Or a bad one? Should I pass it on to my son and my grandson? Or should I take it out into the yard and execute it like a traitorous whore? That is the real question. Should the bird live and be worshipped for generations to come, or should it die violently for bringing me bad luck? The ramifications of that question are intimidating. Is it wise to add up the score right now? What if I come out a loser? Ye gods, let's be careful about this. Have we wandered into dangerous territory? Indeed. At this point in my life, I don't need to rush to judgment, whatever it is. Only a superstitious native would believe that kind of bullshit anyway. Suddenly, I heard Anita screeching from the office, as if a fire had erupted somewhere on the other side of the house. Wonderful, I thought. I'm a lucky man to get a break like this. Bring it on. Attack it now. I reached for the red 200-pound fire extinguisher near the door, thinking finally to have some real fun. But it was not to be. Anita came rushing around the corner with a computer printout in her hands. The president is threatening to seize the Saudi Arabian oil fields, and if they don't help us wipe out the evil of terrorism, seize them by military force. The look on her face was stricken, as if World War IV had just started. This is insane, she wailed. We can't just go over there and invade Saudi Arabia. I put my arm around her and flipped the dial to CNN, which was showing Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld waving his cast at the camera like a clenched fist as he denounced this rumor as nonsense, and once again threatened to track down and eliminate these irresponsible leaks to the press from somewhere within the bowels of the Pentagon. He wanted to punish someone immediately. Of course the United States would not declare war on a close Arab ally like the Saudis. That would be insane. Not necessarily, I said. At least not until it turns into a disastrous botch and Bush gets burned at the stake in Washington. Sane is rich and powerful. Insane is wrong and poor and weak. The rich are free. The poor are put in cages. Res ipsa loquitur. Amen. Mahalo. Okay. And so much for that, eh? No more of these crude hashish ravings. What if the bird says I'm wrong and have been wrong all my life? Certainly I'd not be entirely comfortable sitting here by myself and preparing once again to make terminal judgments on the President of the United States of America on the brink of a formal war with a whole world of Muslims. No! That would make me a traitor and a dangerous security risk. A terrorist. A monster in the eyes of the law. Well, shucks. What can I say? We're coming to a big fork in the road for this country, another ominous polarization between right and wrong, another political mandate to decide which side are you on, maybe a bumper sticker that asks, are you sane or insane? I have confronted that question on a daily basis all my life, as if it were another form to fill out, and on most days I have checked off the sane box. If only because I am not dead. or in prison or miserable in my life. There is no shortage of dangerous gibberish in the classrooms and courts of this nation. Weird myths and queer legends are coins of the realm in our culture, like passwords or keys to survival. Not even a monster with rabies would send his child off to school with a heart full of hate for Santa Claus or Jesus or the Tooth Fairy. That would not be fair to the child. He or she would be shunned and despised like a leper by his classmates and even by his teachers. And he will not come home with good report cards. He will soon turn to wearing black raincoats and making ominous jokes about pipe bombs. Weird behaviour is natural in smart children, just as curiosity is to a kitten. I was no stranger to it myself as a youth growing up in Kentucky. I had a keen appetite for adventure, which soon led me to a maze of complex behavioural experiments that my parents found hard to explain. I was a popular boy, with acceptable grades and a vaguely promising future, but I was cursed with a dark sense of humour that made many adults afraid of me for reasons they couldn't quite put their fingers on. But I was a juvenile delinquent. I was Billy the Kid of Louisville. I was a criminal. I stole things, destroyed things, drank. That's all you had to do, if you're a criminal. In the 6th grade, I was voted head of the safety patrol, the kids who wear the badges and stop traffic during recesses and patrol. It was a very big position, and the principal hated that I was voted to it. She said, "This is horrible. We can't have Hunter doing anything. He's a little Hitler." I wasn't sure what that meant. I think it meant I had a natural sway over many students. And that should probably be lobotomized for the good of the society. I wasn't sure what that meant, but I think it meant I had a natural sway over many students, and that I should probably be lobotomized for the good of society. I always figured I would live on the margins of society, part of a very small outlaw segment. I've never been approved of by any majority. Most people assume it's difficult to live this way, and they're right. They're still trying to lock me up all the time. I've been very careful about urging people who cannot live outside the law to throw off traces and run amok. Some are not made for the outlaw life. The only things I've ever been arrested for, it turns out, are things I didn't do. All the crimes I really committed were things that were usually an accident. Every time they got me, I happened to be in the wrong place and too enthusiastic. It was just the general feeling that I shouldn't be allowed to get away with it. It may be that every culture needs an outlaw god of some kind, and maybe this time around, I'm it. Who knows? I haven't studied it. The idea just came to me in a flash as I read Peter Whitmer's article about me in the January-February 1984 Saturday Review. I think of Lono, Robin Hood and Bacchus, and the Greeks with their fat young boys, and the Irish with their frantic drunken worship of doomed heroes. Jesus! I bet even the Swedes have some kind of outlaw god. But there is no mention of good outlaws in the Holy Bible, I think, mainly because of the church and all its spin-offs that believe in total punishment for all sinners. The Bible makes no exceptions for good-hearted social outlaws. They're all cast into the lake of fire. Punishment. Fuck those people. Pause for interruption. Sorry, that was a call from Newsweek in New York asking what I thought about the shocking Mutombo-Van Horn trade today, a major shift in the power balance of the NBA East I was only vaguely aware of. It meant that the 76ers would now be rid of that flashy albino pussy who always failed in the clutch. It made perfect sense to me, and that is why I picked up the telephone. What the hell? I thought. People ask me these questions because I know I'm a famous sports writer. The trade is meaningless, I said. It is like trading a used mattress for a $300 bill. And that was that, apparently. The writer suddenly was called away from his desk and hung up on me. So what? I thought. I didn't want to talk to him anyway. I had serious work to do, and Anita was getting hungry. It was time for another road trip.